AITA for telling my father I'll cut ties with him if he doesn't come to my wedding? New update.
This is a new update on a story previously shared here. If you want to skip to the new post, I have it marked with red circle, red circle, red circle. Originally posted by ultimatum in our AITAH on July 27, 23, updated on August 7, 23 and September 15, 23. And NBSP. Trigger warning. Parental neglect. Less than. And NBSP. Original. July 27, 23. And NBSP. AITA for telling my father I'll cut ties with him if he doesn't come to my wedding? Throwaway because my younger sister knows my main account. My 26F father, 59M, is a slightly known musician in my home country. Due to his career, he missed out on most of my milestones while I was growing up. School plays, a few birthdays, and both my high school and college graduations. To name a few, mostly events he was informed of months in advance, and canceled on me either weeks or days before. He always apologized for doing so, but never really seemed to feel guilty. I remember we almost had a fight because I didn't want to watch a video he had missed my high school graduation to film. It hurt me so much as a child that I stopped expecting him to show up. It still bothered me when I got older, but at that point I understood that it was his job and I should be grateful he even had one. I'm getting married in early September. My fiancé, 28M, and I have been planning this wedding for a year and a half. The date was decided and invitations were sent months ago. Almost every guest has already RSVP'd. I've reminded my father of the date several times this past year, and he kept assuring me he had blocked the entire week of the wedding and would be there. A couple days ago, my father called to inform me he'd had to schedule a concert for my wedding day. He apologized and said he'd make it up to me with a gift. I don't want a gift. I want my father to come to my wedding. So I told him that either he figured out a way to reschedule, which I know he could probably do if he tried, or I'd cut ties with him. What followed was one of the biggest fights we've ever had. He called me ungrateful, spoiled and selfish for giving him that kind of ultimatum and expecting him to change his work schedule for my own benefit, which he has asked me to do on many occasions before. He yelled, and I held myself not to yell back. We're still fighting over this. Most of my family is on my side, though both my mom, divorced from my dad, and my fiancé have warned me not to make any moves I might regret. My sister, 20F, is on my father's side, which doesn't surprise me. I love my father and I really don't want to stop talking to him. But I'm done with him expecting to be able to miss out on my life with no consequences. That being said, I'd be lying if I said that I don't feel guilty. Just writing this all down made me feel like a huge brat. AITA? Edit. Thought I'd clarify some things. My mom and my fiancé are 100% on my side. They told me to be careful because they know I don't really want to go and see. Also, my mom has barely spoken to my father in almost 20 years and my fiancé is with me because we love each other, not because of who my father is. My father is not a struggling artist, he's been in this line of work since before I was born. I wouldn't consider him rich, but he lives more than just comfortably. If I thought he couldn't afford to reschedule a concert, I wouldn't blame him for not being able to come to the wedding. And yes, he paid child support and provided for both me and my sister. I do have other people who can walk me down the aisle. My stepdad, which would make my dad furious. So I might do it purely out of pettiness. And at least two of my best friends would be more than willing to. My father isn't paying for any part of the wedding. He offered to, but I declined. I don't live with him anymore. And both me and my fiancé have good jobs. When I was younger, I told myself that once I didn't need his money anymore, I'd never ask for it again. My sister isn't the golden child. He missed many of her milestones as well. Edit 2. I've tried acting indifferent before. It doesn't work. He interprets it as forgiveness. It's the reason why he still does this. And NBSP. In the comments, don't cut ties till after you get his wedding present. Op. I could care less about presents. Especially coming from my father, pretty much anything he gives me comes with strings attached. That sounds like you have more problems with him than him not showing up to stuff. Op. Yep. We've had a rocky relationship for a little over a decade now. For various reasons, including his tendency of using how much money he'd spend on me and my sister against us. That's why I try not to ask him for anything. It's got nothing to do with why I'm threatening to cut contact. Though, NTA. But if he's busy providing for the family, he's NTA. Either it's a lose-lose situation. Sure, it's a important moment in your life, but this could be one of his last tours before he hangs up his boots and walks away from music. Op. As far as I know, he has no plans of retiring anytime soon. What will you tell your children when Papa misses their milestones? Oh, that's just how he is. Make the choice now if you're going to subject your future children to the same pain as you. Op. I wouldn't be surprised if I had to force a relationship between him and my future children. My paternal grandfather died when I was 15, and I barely remember his voice. Because not only did we only see each other once or twice a year, he lived in a different city. He also never tried to have a conversation with me, expecting him to change his work schedule for my own benefit. What does he mean? He changed his own work schedule to fall on prior commitments. Op. As he explained on the phone, he forgot about the wedding date while scheduling the concerts with his manager. His current girlfriend reminded him hours later. I knew he couldn't actually block the whole week. He'd promised the same thing before my high school graduation, but he could still avoid it. If he can't be bothered to walk you down the aisle, one of the most precious moments a father should look forward to, then you were never important to him at all. This was the final indication you needed to move on. Op. Before he canceled on me, he specifically said he wanted to walk me down the aisle. I didn't want him to. I hate the whole giving the bride away thing, but I'd agreed, because I thought it would be important for him. I need to ask if your father has not missed much with your sister and that's why she's taking his side? Was he available at her milestones? Op. Nope. He missed most of hers as well. My sister keeps taking his side for 3 reasons. She still lives with him. She has been belittling me since she was in elementary school. This is probably my fault, but I've been sheltering her from these things her entire life. The only reason why our father went to her high school graduation was because I berated him. As a teen, I took over her fights with him and played mediator whenever I had to. Basically, she never had many problems with him because of me. She doesn't know half of what I've done for her, and I don't really want her to. This specific concert is in a smaller city. For these, he can usually reschedule until ticket sales are announced, which they haven't been yet. There is some bureaucracy involved, which is why I've never asked him to do so before. But it is doable. He's doing well financially. He's been on 4 vacations to a nearby town he likes this year alone. He paid for my education, and is still paying my sister's. He's not Scrooge McDuck or anything, but rescheduling a concert won't affect him too much. And NBSP. Update. August 7th, 23. And NBSP. Update. AITA for telling my father I'll cut ties with him if he doesn't come to my wedding? Hey guys. A lot has happened, but I'll try to keep this short. I'll start off by saying that your comments on my first post were very eye-opening. though some of the assumptions you made were wrong. I could see where they all came from. And most of what you said was so spot on it was painful to read. Someone said that my father doesn't see me as a person, but as an extension of himself. That one hurt the most, because it's the best definition of my relationship with my father I've ever seen. My father wasn't neglectful in the traditional sense. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old, and my mom had primary custody of me and my sister. But we still went to his place several times a week. My mother is a teacher and couldn't raise us on her salary alone. So he was our main financial supporter even after the divorce. Because of all of this, he seems to believe he was the best father ever. Whenever we fought, he always insisted I was wrong and ungrateful. Those same arguments were used whenever I demonstrated I was upset over him missing out on my milestones. In his head, for instance, I couldn't get angry if he missed my high school graduation or if he didn't pay attention to any of the projects I developed in college. Because he was the one paying for my education, I decided to stop complaining about this when I was younger, having realized I wouldn't be able to get him to see my side. This wedding incident felt like a turning point, though, especially since he wasn't paying for anything this time. It made me accept that he doesn't care how much he contributed anymore, but still believes I don't have the right to be upset. I now realize there's no winning this. If he doesn't come, I'll be devastated. If he does, I'll always remember I had to force my own father to come to my wedding. At this point, I'm not even sure which is worse. A few days ago, I had a discussion with my father over the phone, in which I expressed all of the above and more. And as expected, he called me dramatic, accused me of alienating myself, and berated me for talking to him the way I did. I hung up on him. This is how our fights have gone since I was a teenager. And it never solves anything. We haven't spoken since. I sent him a long text, basically saying I didn't want to hear from him until he was ready to both give me a sincere apology and own up to the status of our relationship as his fault. This is all wishful thinking. I really don't think either are gonna happen. I love my father, and I know he loves me to bits. But I can't do this anymore. He's been around my entire life, and still barely knows me for who I am. It's his turn to make that effort. Right now, I'm trying to muster up excitement for my wedding. I lost most of it these past weeks. My fiancé, my mom and my friends are all trying to cheer me up. And it's starting to work. I'm definitely feeling a lot better than last week. I'm really grateful to have them in my life. So that's it for now. Thank you all for your support on my previous post. And NBSP in the comments. An alternative to your dad walking you down. What about that mom and sibling that you mentioned? My mom. Maybe. Definitely not my sister. I'm also considering my stepdad. Truth be told, I never really wanted to do that part in the first place. So we'll see how it goes. I say it might be best to have some therapy alone or with your new husband to learn and stop getting hurt by your father. Yeah, I'll look into therapy. I refused to for a long time, because I hate the whole opening up thing. But now feels like a good time to start. He will come running if you decide to have kids. But be careful and remember how he treated you. He will do the same to your kids. That worries me, too. My paternal grandfather was so aloof I have no memory of his voice. He died when I was 15. Nor do I remember ever having a conversation with him. He knew that was his fault and expressed regret. But not to my dad, who always idolized him. I think about having children frequently, but I never imagined my dad as a grandfather, because I have no doubt he wouldn't recognize those mistakes. And NBSP. Red circle, red circle, red circle. And NBSP. New update. September 15th, 23. Final update. AITA for telling my father I'll cut ties with him if he doesn't come to my wedding? Hey guys. This will probably be my last update. First of all, I'm happy to announce that I finally got married to the love of my life almost 2 weeks ago. For the last 6 years, this man has been my rock, my best friend and my biggest supporter. And I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with him. I give him, my mom and my friends, especially my awesome Mo, full credit for helping me regain my excitement for my wedding. And it was amazing. Everyone had fun. The food was great. And no one got too drunk. A constant concern of mine. Some of my friends have that tendency. I went home knowing I'd spent my wedding day surrounded by people who loved me. But my father wasn't there. After thinking very carefully about the matter and talking about it with my paternal family, all of whom were taking my side, I realized I wasn't ready to go and see, especially since I will have to see him at least once a year for the holidays. But I legitimately don't want to invest in our relationship anymore. So for now, I'm going extremely LC. I will act civil, though probably cold, whenever I'm around him. But that's it. I'm not answering his calls or texts. He's no longer welcome at my place. And I'm no longer inviting him to anything, including my birthdays, work events and my future children's milestones. I'm leaving the door open in case he ever wants to try to make an effort to be better. Therapy, apologies and actually caring about my accomplishments. But I'm more than ready to close it. I ended up talking to him one more time, again through the phone, a couple of weeks after my last update. I told him all of the above. And when he yelled at me, I asked him to name a single project I'd worked on in college. I had told him about 4, and explained one of them in detail several times, none of which he'd remember the next day. He couldn't. I asked him to at least loosely describe one of them. He couldn't either. I kept asking him about multiple details about my life that I clearly remembered telling him about. Always at least twice. Nada. He claimed I'd never told him about any of this stuff. I said that not only had I informed him of these things frequently, we'd also had that exact conversation dozens of times before. And the outcome is always the same. He's a great father. And I'm ungrateful and dramatic. I told him I'll always love him and be grateful for the things he did for me. But I'm done. He only cares about me as his daughter, and not a grown woman that exists outside of his life. He never actually cared about anything that wasn't about him. I'm done with him thinking I'm not worth the same respect that I have bent over backwards to give him my whole life. We haven't spoken since. My cousin told me her mom, his older sister, berated him on the phone a few days later. My mom has offered to do the same, but I declined. He's been trying to talk to my sister about it, but I told her to stay out of it. Things have been getting a bit better between me and her. I considered having my stepfather walk me down the aisle, but he remembered me saying I never wanted my dad to give me away in the first place. So he encouraged me to do things my way. I ended up walking alone to a string version of Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. About halfway through, my 3-year-old goddaughter came up to me and grabbed my hand. And we walked the rest of the way together. It was perfect, and so much better than anything I could have planned. My father texted me during the wedding, probably to ask for pictures. I didn't reply. For now, I feel numb. There is very little about the situation that didn't break my heart. And I'm not exactly happy about the outcome. Most of the time, I'm too sad to think about the silver linings, but too exhausted to actually feel sad. That being said, I'm also ecstatic. I never thought I'd be as happy about my wedding as I am. We also just got back from our honeymoon, so it's been easier to focus on the good times. Also, some people have PM'd me asking who my father is, or even speculating about it. Please don't. This is still my family. In spite of everything, He is still my father and I love him. I came here for advice, not revenge or sabotage. I wouldn't have created a throwaway if I didn't want to be kept anonymous. That's all, folks. Thank you for all your kind words and advice. And NBSP. In the comments, regarding her goddaughter running to her in the aisle. It was beautiful. I found out later that her mom encouraged her to do it so that I wouldn't walk alone. For anyone curious, shared in the comments that this is the version of Metallica's Nothing Else Matters that they used for the wedding. And NBSP. Flaring this concluded as the wedding has happened and has indicated that this will be her final update. Reminder: do not comment on the original posts or contact the original poster. I am not the original poster. This is a repost.
The fact that her dad could not remember anything about her life but her stepdad immediately remembered she didn't want anyone to walk her down the aisle says everything.
My prediction for the future. My daughter had 5 kids. And never told me I was the perfect father. How can I convince her that she's in the wrong and needs to apologize to me? Quote. I mean, if Dave Grohl can fly across the world mid-tour, Australia to the US, to go to a daddy and daughter dance, pretty sure this guy could have made an effort. He's a selfish father. His girlfriend remembered the day before he did. And he didn't even try. Lost cause. We must accept our parents for the people that they are, instead of continually hoping they'll magically become the people that we want them to be. I suspect Daddy texted her during the wedding as a petty power move to bring attention back to him. To force her to drop everything and cater to his fifis. Or pick a fight and make OOP have to explain herself during her own damn wedding. And thus remind her of her place in the hierarchy. And thus taint the day and the memories without needing to actually turn up. Jackass. The goddaughter walking her down the aisle was the smile I needed for this post. I really hope. Oops, Dad pulls his finger out for her sake. I am surprised Dad didn't offer to perform and make her wedding all about him. Narcissism. Clapping hands. Medium light skin tone. 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 My dad is not a semi-famous musician, but almost everything she wrote about her life with him, I also dealt with. I haven't spoken to my dad in 8 years. And I'm better off for it. Neither do my siblings. For the most part. Yet he still thinks he was a great dad and doesn't understand. Face with rolling eyes. I predict as soon as Oop has kids, especially if it's a son, their father will be there for the do-over kids he missed out on the first time. The moment with the goddaughter. My heart. So glad that other than her father she is clearly surrounded by love and support. And her wedding sounds lovely. Acceptabling that someone won't make the effort for you is so hard and heartbreaking. You can't love someone into caring. The father's karma is coming. First he loses his daughter. Next his whole family turns his back on him. Then he'll start to slowly lose his skill as he gets older. In the end he'll be old and alone with only his legacy as a musician that no one in his family will want to be a part of. Dad is a self-centered asshole and totally unwilling to change. I bet the younger sister will change her tune when Daddy misses her own wedding just because he didn't feel like coming. I walked down the aisle to a string version of Nothing Else Matters too. And her refusing to talk with him is gonna drive him crazy. And this isn't over yet. I'm so pleased that Oop had the wedding she wanted and she really enjoyed it. I hope that she continues enjoying her peace. Dad is totally a dick. But I'd imagine he's a man who probably shouldn't have ever had children. He probably didn't want them and just did the bare minimum. Not healthy or good. Just sad. My dad drove 3 hours to see me in a musical in college. This man doesn't care enough to even remember. This is some textbook narcissistic personality traits from OOP's father right here. He's perfect. She's ungrateful and dramatic. They all have the same playbook. I wish Oop much joy and peace in her marriage. He texted her during her wedding asking for pictures? Maybe I haven't been to enough weddings. But the mere idea of texting the bride seems abhorrent to me.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.